Welcome to the Uplift, where we are uplifting our lives, uplifting each other, and uplifting our communities together. Thank you for joining myself, Cy Herrera, and Tessa Savala here, two women, two attorneys, doing it our way, and inviting you here each week to share in on the stories, advice, and life lessons we've picked up along our journeys that keep us uplifted, and that will hopefully do the very same thing for you. Now buckle in and let's get ready to be uplifted.
Hello, everyone. As always, I am Tessa, and I am joined by the utter ray of sunshine that is Cy.
Aw, and I am always so grateful and honored to be in your lovely glowing presence, Tessa. Thank you for just being here with me again.
Oh, thank you, and thank everybody who is listening. Cy and I have been on this exploration of moving to a video-based podcast, and it has been a journey, and it has been exciting, and it has been new technology, and it has been moving outside of comfort zones. And for me, it's been a good reminder of how lovely and exciting those things are when you're doing it with somebody that you trust and respect and has your back. And that kind of love is not something that happens really frequently. What do you think about our experience so far as we slowly step our foot into moving to video?
I think it's like so many other uncharted territory experiences for me where, it's scary a little bit. It's exciting a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Um, and most importantly, I think, like you were hinting on, doing something with somebody who, is giving you lots of grace and lots of love through the process, it just makes all the difference, right? And it just immediately makes me think about, like, are we doing that for ourselves all the time, right? And all of the new things that we're doing, there's so much pressure to feel like you're just like an expert at everything, or that you know all the right answers, or yeah, I've already been doing that for years. The saving face thing, I feel like it just shows up in so many ways. And going through thus far with you, and just kind of like taking our time and giving each other as much time and grace as we need, like it feels different than a lot of other times when you're trying to maybe do something that you've never done before. So I love it. I feel like it's thus far been just like a lovely little kind of stroll into a new direction.
And something that I love about it, and I think is true for a lot of decisions that everybody makes in their life, is that we have done this so organically, where it felt comfortable for both of us as we moved through with like switching technological platforms or even the concept of video. But it's that process that we've allowed to occur, as opposed to, I feel like a lot of things in my life and my career have been more like, well, let's just throw you into the deep end and see how this works. But I think that's
Totally.
also true for a lot of people, right? Like, especially when you're first starting out your career or when you take a big promotion, it's like, oh, but it's all those inner voices, right, that have compounded through the years that you hear. They're like, well, women are bossy if they speak up. Or a fact I read this week that is just astounding to me.
Mhm.
I think it was Harvard Business Review said that for high achieving females, 97% of them get negative feedback compared to
Wow.
2%, 2% of men
Stop.
in the
Stop it
same
right now.
highly achieving fields and positions. 2% compared to
Damn.
97%. But
Oh wow,
I
that
think,
just hit. That just hit, like, that's
yeah,
so real. And I also had no idea it would be that low for men. I'm not gonna lie. I just like, yeah, like when you said the first one, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. And then
right?
the second one, I was like, oh, we are living in two different worlds entirely.
We
Wow.
are. And I feel as though that what that 97% percentage reflects is that for all our years before, we've been hearing what is reflected in that 97%, right? If
Mm,
women speak up, they're bossy. If women are confident, they're cocky. If women, have a great idea. It's never going to be implemented unless a man says it, right? Like
Hmm.
you hear those things and you see those things occur, and I think it informs our decision making, and I think it creates that negative voice. But something that you said that I kind of diverted from, I think is really crucial. That idea that we need to start normalizing not knowing, and we need to start normalizing that that's
Hmm.
okay, right? Like we have all
Yeah.
have the ability to adapt and learn and improve and grow and all those lovely things, but it's almost
I
as
love that you
though,
said normalizing too, though, because I mean it's beyond like it's okay. Like for me, I don't know why those two things hit so differently though. Like if you say it's okay, people are like, well, it's okay, even though you
but
should
I
know this,
know,
you don't. But normalizing it makes me feel like we're all in the same boat. Like we're all going through the same thing, the same life experience of, you try new things and then you learn. And I don't know why there's so much shame around not knowing.
right?
But
Isn't that
it's
crazy?
really I don't know, like I don't even know how it serves us, like that's the thing. Like I don't know what it is about me. But something about me is I love to know why. I wish I didn't, but like I always am like, why? And in this case, it doesn't actually make sense for this. It doesn't serve us as a human race, right? Because if you are literally telling people like, oh, you should already know this, that means that they're not gonna learn. They're gonna pretend to know, which is bad. That's just, I mean, you're gonna get bad results, right? Like people are then just guessing, and hoping for the best, the faking it till you make it type of thing. Um,
But
and it
it's,
really, you can feel it when someone asks, oh, do you know this person even, or do you know this thing? No, saying no, it's
yeah.
definitely harder than saying like, yeah, I've heard of that, or it sounds familiar. I love when people are like, I can tell sometimes when people are just like, oh, yeah, I am pretending like I know what you're talking about. And I'm going to say just enough for you to tell me what it actually is. I love when people do that because I'm just like, it's okay if you don't. You can just, it's completely normal not to know everything in the world. But there's some kind of weird socialization where we are expected to know everything, actually. It's really bizarre.
It is. I remember learning in law school, and tell me if you had the same experience,
Hmm.
that it was more important that you knew how to find the answer as
Yes,
opposed to
yes.
knowing the answer. And it feels as though maybe I have forgotten that, right? Because I do feel those same pressure sometimes where I am expected
Hmm.
to know an answer, and I'm like, uh, give me 15 minutes and let me think about it. But everything is so like now, immediate. You know everything. Just tell me.
Mm. Mm. And maybe that's a result of technology in a way, right? We were just talking yesterday, my partner and I were like, wow, the world that these kids are growing up in is wild. Like he was saying, when we were young, like we thought we were lucky because, the whole world kind of opened up when the internet started, but it was like, you would have to rely on whoever happened to like pay for a domain and make a website, and like share
Yep.
something on Wikipedia or whenever that came out. But I mean, it was literally like you were just like depending on the kindness of strangers type of thing because you didn't know what you would or wouldn't find. And now it's like, well, you could just imagine anything in the world that you could get into a whole, online discussion with people from all over the world on whatever. Like, I mean, you could do a deep dive into, archives. And I mean, there's just so much abundance, but it's also immediately too. Like, I mean, especially with, AI, but even with Google, it's like, or any search engine, you can just ask and you should get an answer within, I don't know, what, 2 seconds. So
Yeah.
it's just a wildly different pace that, how are we catching up to that? Like if we're checking in on our own kind of well-being and our bodies and, our emotional kind of state related to all of this speed, like how are we feeling? How are we doing? How are we coping with that?
I pulling it back to us building to and moving to video. I think the way I've coped with some of our decision making is like you and I tackle most things, research, right?
Hmm.
And then it's like maybe it's those what is it, 5 levels of grief, right? Like I'm trying to gather
Mm.
information, then I want to think about it, And then I might slowly dip into the cons because of all the societal pressure that has like, you know,
Hmm.
systematically built up. And then I move out of that to acceptance. And I'm to this place where, oh yeah, this is going to work out great. And I think that's the same for like all technology, right? Or even
Yep, yep.
flux in life. It's that research, think, adapt. Okay, pros, cons. Okay, I get it. Let's do this.
Yeah. And
But
we're
it,
being forced through that quicker though, too, I've noticed. Like for me
oh my
anyways.
God,
Like
yes.
and I mean also like I don't know if I'm being socialized, but I just remember like, different I'm a child of the 80s, so like, different technologies have come out and like just faster and faster been adopted. I think there was some research about AI versus, I don't know if it was just like the internet in general or Google in general or something, but they were saying, the majority of the population didn't adopt it, this first technology for like, I don't know, at least a year or something like, a longer a period of time. And with AI, it's like a majority of people adopted it within like a month or less. I can't remember the actual numbers. I just remember thinking about the difference and being like, whoa, that's really interesting. And it's very reflective of my experience too, where it's like I've always been an early adopter of a lot of technologies in ways, but not the super earliest folks. But like when it's starting to go mainstream, sure, like I will try all these things. I love tools, but I feel like there's like a new strange comfort with these new technologies too. Like, I think there was a whole time when people got really freaked out, of course, about privacy. And then it's like somehow we got over that hump. And now we're just like, yeah, we just accept this. This is just part of life now, and not to say that that's good or bad. But it's just really interesting for me to like step back and like look at how, we're adopting things just for me anyways, like definitely quicker, where it's like yeah, we've already been through this. Like what's coming next? And like there's some like I remember when AI started, like people really started talking about it this year more and it going more mainstream. I know it's been around for a long time, but in terms of it being a mainstream accessible tool, and it's so funny, but I distinctly remember for like a week, I was freaking out about AI. Like I was truly like scared. I was like, oh no, something like this is bad. Like this is gonna end in some bad things. And literally a week later, I was like, ooh, ChatGPT. And I'm just like, I am using this now. And I'm like telling everyone about it. I'm like, you should be using it too. Like, I'm an ambassador apparently for ChatGPT now. And it's just like, how did this happen? How did this happen in 1 week's time? Like, I was literally like, there's an existential threat to like, this is my new buddy. It's just really, it's just really
That's
wild.
awesome though, right? Like I love knowing that how quickly you're doing it because my policy mind has been around for way too long, and it's like
Hmm.
mm, mm, totally unregulated at this point in time. This is gonna
Hmm.
be fun. But then I read
Yeah.
this quote this week about one of the first, major AI companies. Quote was, AI isn't designed to give you the right answer. It's designed to give you an answer. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, well, this will be fun to know.
Yeah, exactly. There's so many implications, of course, but what's really fascinating, even just being self-reflective right now, is that in that moment when I decided that like I was over it and I was just going to start using this as a tool, I remember really having like an actual like conversation with myself where I was like, yes, it's gonna be problematic. Yes, there's gonna be a lot of like wild, wild west stuff again. And I'm like, and we've seen it all before. And guess what? The world adopts it, and then you either know it or you're behind. And like something
So
like
true.
had clicked for me where I was just like, and we got to get on it. Like we got to get on it. Like this is what's happening, and that, like there's nothing that I'm gonna be able to do that's gonna like you know change the course of this direction. Like I just accepted it as like the stages that you said. I just went through those stages in like 1 week, but I was just like, yes, this is happening. I can see it's gonna happen. It's just gonna be like all of those other technologies, and I might as well know and be prepared than be left behind type of thing. So I feel like there is a lot of socialization going around with these new technologies too. And we don't really, talk too much about it. We're just all like expected to kind of grapple with all of this exponentially fast, wild technology change. And we're probably kind of all doing it on our own, I guess, right?
I think we're doing it on our own, but we're also doing it together, right? Like we hear each
Mm-hmm.
other's experiences and we learn about what quirks work and what quirks don't. And then we see, like, I know friends with kids that are using AI to do like schoolwork, and that has been a
Mm-hmm.
interesting learning experience, mostly in that teachers are like, hard no on that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so, it's how does the rest of society adapt and accept it too, right? It seems
Yeah.
as though it is maybe beyond, it's greater than just us.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I mean it's starting, I mean, technology is helping to shape our reality, right? I mean, there's no, I mean, you can't get away from the idea like we all have cell phones now. We are, recording this on technology. It's accessible, it's expected, it's cultural. I just learned yesterday, just because I never thought of it, I guess, but someone said on a tech video, this phone is available. But this is the only phone that we have that has this feature that's available in the United States. And I was like, what does that mean? And they're like, well, there are phones that are available, in other parts of the world that are not available here. And I'm like, but why? Why would they not be
Yeah.
selling to the US? That's so strange. And
Why
then
do
we
we have
talked about the
technological borders?
yeah, I thought that was so fascinating. Just the thing I never really thought too much about being in such a, privileged country that's, a big market and everybody wants to sell here is my impression. And then I learned, I guess, that we have, banned some phones or, some products based on whatever. And so I was like, oh, okay. So other people in other parts of the world have different technologies than us, which of course I know in terms of like, there's certain parts of the world that are far ahead of us in certain ways. But I don't know, for some reason that one stuck out to me like, oh, there's this phone. For some reason, phones seem different to me where I just think like they roll out the phones all over the world, and I was just like, oh wow, a phone that we can't have. Fascinating. And
You know,
I'm
I
sure there's a lot of technology like that. I just don't know all about it.
I remember being a kid and my grandparents were in Sweden, my aunts and uncles and cousins were in Sweden,
Mm-hmm.
and all I wanted as a kid was to be able to do video calls with them, which was
Mm.
not a thing in the 80s
Mm-hmm.
and 90s. And Kid Tessa was not happy about this. And all I wanted was like, but think about it. You could have a video screen on your watch and you could like talk to them. It would be the best. And I remember my parents like subjected to all the technological like limitations that were out in society and this will never happen kind of idea. And I'm like, it's gonna happen. I mean, it didn't happen soon enough so I could talk to my grandparents, but it's here now.
Mm. Yeah, and that's so wild and wonderful, but also like that's exactly what I mean in terms of like our like how ready are we for this? Like maybe like you were ready, but how did your parents do when like the iPhone came out and when video calling actually came about? I mean there are things that people truly don't think that they would ever see in their lifetime. And
Yeah.
sometimes even for me, I'm just like, oh wow, we're moving at this fast pace. But sometimes things happen and it's like, well, we were just talking about that as like a science fiction last week and now it's a thing. You know what I mean? Like it's really wild and I don't think anybody's like fully prepared for how fast technology is advancing. I mean, I know that there are what quantum computers now, and I have no
Yep.
idea exactly what that means, except for it's major. I know that they're
Mm-hmm.
faster than any other computer ever. But the implications of it, I mean, I watched this YouTube video the other day that was just like, here are 10 ways in the future that AI could like, just change everything. And I was just like blown away by the imagination that was happening there. And the reason why it's so, I think, impactful now is because I used to, think about things like that and just think like, oh, those are things also like your parents maybe thought I would never see in my lifetime. And now I'm like, everything that people are suggesting could happen tomorrow, apparently. Like
Yeah.
I'm just having to adjust entirely my expectations. And it's a little scary and exciting at the same time.
I've noticed that I have become more like, wow, this is exciting, and I want to know more about it. And then I'm like,
Hmm.
hmm, where can people take advantage of this? Because I don't want to
Right.
see people taken advantage of. I don't want to be taken advantage of. And I
Oh,
think that's
God.
where
Hmm.
my intrepidation is, as it was, as we're working to go to video, my initial trepidation was, oh my God, I need to be camera ready. Then I'm like, who cares if I'm camera ready? I'm just going to be here and it's going to be a great conversation.
You're always camera ready, however you like. I mean, it's
Exactly.
really that. It's like it's that. I mean, there's so many layers, right? I mean, and then there's all of the other things that we can't even imagine yet, which are the things we don't know. And it's kind of funny to think like, what do we have to tell ourselves, or where do we have to go to get comfortable enough just to move forward or to explore or to experiment. And
Yeah.
I don't know, I find it like, I find a lot of, I guess almost, I want to say wisdom. I just find a lot of intrigue in, especially young people who just do,
Yeah.
just like think about the earliest adopters that just like started making YouTube videos, or even TikTok videos, or what have you, like just like the creators, the influencers, all the people. And they got, not all of them, I have no idea what kind of success rates everybody has had and all of that, but obviously some of the earliest adopters, I mean, they're sitting pretty. Like they are like kind of like, the forefathers of this frontier type of thing. And so it's really kind of cool to see that there's just like so many new like destinies being created and crafted in this new world.
It is. Right? Like, what if we walked into all of our decision making like that, right? That it's this
Hmm.
exciting frontier ahead of us and anything is possible. And we can make it what we want because we are capable and able and can do this. We don't have to know it all, but we just need to
Yeah,
know how to find the answers. But we can
exactly.
do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I totally learned that in law school. And I really do say that to people a lot of times too. And I also challenge people sometimes just to fail, when
It's
people are really anxious.
important.
It really is. I'm just like, please fail. Like, please try to fail. Like, just try, because of course we can get like really caught up in analysis paralysis. We can get stuck in fear. We can get stuck in overthinking. I
Hmm.
think that's another big thing for right now. We were talking about this too this week, that like, you know, people are talking a lot about, oh, so many people are suffering from anxiety and depression and all of these, mental health conditions that we used to think of it as kind of like an individualistic issue, and I know most people still do, but I was posing like, is this an individual thing, or is this a societal type of thing? Like, is this a collective condition that we are experiencing, right? Because like I said, we're not really, we're not necessarily ready for all this technology. And I love that we can incorporate it in ways that will make our lives, hopefully richer, and hopefully, give us more thriving in life. But we know that there's a lot of harm that's being done, of course, too, with us moving so quickly, and there being no regulations, and there being no check, on the unbridled growth and just the innovation. I mean, the innovation can be amazing, and it can be harmful too, right? If it goes unchecked, it's just like any kind of power, I think. And so, thinking about it that way, I mean, we know that like people are coming out. I think I want to say the what is it? Surgeon General came out and started talking about how harmful social media is, especially to our young
Yeah.
people, in a medical way. And and the things like that, I think that's where it's unfortunate that we don't take our time a little bit to figure out like how this could be harmful, or how we can protect people from harm. But at the end of the day, you know, we know that we live in a time where things are going to keep being thrown at us regardless, right? And that's why I love talking about this with you, because um, I kind of feel like everyone is just kind of being left to their own devices in terms of like how they handle, how they, approach, how they incorporate, how they adopt, how they adapt. Um, and yes, you look at other people's experiences, and that influences yours, of course. But at the end of the day, like I also think like there are people sitting in their rooms like death scrolling and giving themselves or it's causing them harm, into their mental and emotional well-being. And there is a lot of like aloneness there, loneliness
Yeah.
there, isolation there,
But I've
and
also
mhm.
seen it as a community lately, though, too,
Yeah, yeah.
right? Like, especially on social media, when somebody does something egregious, such as
Mhm.
this week during the Democratic National Convention, a Republican commentator tweeted something inappropriate about the potential vice president's son, and
Mhm.
social media reacted swiftly and promptly to shut down an attack on mental
Mhm.
health. And I thought that
Mhm.
was so nice to see that it got shot down
Yeah.
quickly, that the commentator like didn't put up a fight, was just like, once I learned the full picture about his mental health, I deleted the post. I'm like, wow, if this
Wow.
like far, 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 far right commentator who is
Mhm.
nationally very well known can say, okay, I'm going to respect people's mental health. Like,
Mhm.
that is normalizing mental health. And I was like, wow, there are some good things about social media that have really helped. And I
Yeah.
think, as bad as it can be for mental health, I think there's a communal desire to protect the collective mental health. Boy, I'm
Yeah.
optimistic today about this.
I love it. I mean, that, and it just makes me think of like all of the different forms of, organizing and the power that it brings
Mhm.
with it. It can be used just like any kind of power.
Yeah.
Harnessing the power of technology can be used for good. It can be used for bad. It can be used for, just information sharing. It can be used in a neutral way. It can be used for anything. It's the people and what they decide to do with it, of course, right? But I also, like you said earlier, with it being unregulated, it's almost like a big old like experiment. and
It
and the
is.
and like you're saying, people like came, to task, and they like, they really like rallied. That's beautiful. And that it can go the other way, but I think you're right in terms of the fact that like if we have hope for humanity, if we have trust and love in each other, if we really believe in the power of, goodness and positivity, then yeah, technology can always be used as a tool for good.
It's a nice reminder that the work that we're doing with Uplift and how we want to ensure that everybody has the opportunity to have positive, uplifting people in their circles to help them achieve whatever they may want to achieve. It's so crucial, because imagine if everybody on social media didn't have that. I don't think we would see that collective good as often, because it's
Yeah.
so much easier to fall prey to the like negative talk that's out there in the world, because we hear
Mm-hmm.
it a lot. And I think as kids, it's what we remember the most, right? Like, we remember when our teachers gave
So true.
negative praise, or, you know, clearly, according to that Harvard Business Review, women are getting a lot more negativity out there in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so important
100%. Yeah.
to have people understand and lift you up, so that you understand that it can help you. I don't know if it's wholeheartedly ignore, but it can be contextualizing that negativity that's out there better. So it doesn't like
Mm.
sit and build and fester inside you, because it's easy
Yeah.
for that to happen.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and one of the things that I love about it, I remember, I think it was before I even went to college. I remember having a discussion with a couple of my cousins who are a little bit older than me. So they were living on their own. I think they had started their family, and we were just having like a little intellectual discussion about, I guess, culture. And I remember them saying something like, it really depends on like where you grow up and who's around you and what you're influenced by, like what you see, all the modeling that's around you, and just you can only know what you know kind of thing. And I was like, yeah, that was true, but that's not true anymore. And I was like, that used to be the case. I'm like, but that's not the case anymore. I'm like, that's not true anymore. And this was a while back, but even then I was like, that's over. I'm like, even the fact that we have, just TV where people can make so much, they can share so much information and imagery and culture, um, you know, throughout the world. They can send these signals throughout the world. Like that is just monumentally changing, right? That is just changing culture. I mean, the fact that we even listen to the same music across just the country is a
Right.
big deal. Like that's a crazy wild thing that's happened for a long time, but it changed culture. I was thinking of that this morning and thinking I love Motown so much, and I love the music, that was created by this incredible culture and the people and all of the amazing musical history that it was born from. And I remember thinking about a little, like, I don't know, little uh scene in one of the movies of a Motown artist where they literally seen segregation like changing
Yeah.
at their concerts, and it was like literally this music was bringing people literally physically together in a
Yeah.
time where they were not supposed to be together, where the mindset was so horrific and bigoted. And I mean, I just thought that was so powerful, and it makes me think about how positive, what a positive impact technology can have. I mean, and the limits are endless. I mean, like we're talking about with research, it's like, wow, I know when I was a child and I had to do research papers, like they must have been pathetic compared to what you can do today. Like, I mean, they just must have been so elementary. Trying to read with like the Dewey Decimal System in the library, like, come on,
Yes.
like going through all these books and like trying to find like one little shred of information that would be relevant to what you're talking about. My God, like that seems like a bajillion years ago. And so it's a wonderful, beautiful, potential that we can harness all of this technology. And to your point, I really believe that there's power to bring us all closer together, and
Yeah.
for us to use these platforms to make culture that is more rich and more humane and more centering the humanity of each other. Like there's so much potential there, but it's all a choice. It's all of a choice of whose voice
Yeah.
is going to be louder, and who's going to, I don't know, like who's going to do the most, who's going to organize to make it that space, and make it a future that we really want to live in. It's just like everything else, it has to come from a good place within, and that's why individual work and growth is so important, and why collective healing and
Yeah.
collective growth is also so important.
I do believe, and I have no research or data to back this up, but I believe that positive energy spreads more infectiously than negative energy overall. Like, I think people want to hear the good things.
Hmm. Hmm. And I mean, I agree. I think the issue is we're I think there's some research to say that our bodies are set up to, like, pay attention to where there might be something scary, of course, right? Because we're self-preserving, of course.
Sure, yeah.
Um, but I think you're right in that. Here's the simple way that I think of it. It's like you're at a party and there's somebody who's like, angry and grumpy in the corner. And then there's like people over here having a good time, laughing it up. Like, if you had the choice of where you're going to gravitate. Seriously, like I was just
That is
thinking,
such
right?
a
Like,
great visual. Yeah.
where would you gravitate towards? Like, you get a chance to walk to whoever you want in this room. Where would you go? And I mean, honestly, like I might go to that other person because I'm such an empath that I might be like, "Are you okay?" and try to help them.
Oh, that's
Which,
lovely.
but if I'm there to have a good time, I think most of us would, we would actually gravitate to the positive in the room.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's also part of our human nature, which I love. And I think we don't talk about that enough. Like we always, not always us, we're maybe the exception, but so many people talk more so about like, the fear and the anxiety that we have and like all of the bad that we're attracted to. And they talk about it all the time when it comes to like this is why the news is the way that it is and all of the things,
Yeah.
and I get it, like I do, that's a real thing, but that doesn't mean that we also don't have this other thing, right? We can have two things at once, we can hold two things at the same time, and we have a beautiful history and evolutionary in innate thing in us that reaches out to the other. We're reaching out wanting connection to one another. And just that is a beautiful thing. It's just a matter of how we honor it.
Wow, that feels like a big warm hug, doesn't it? Like knowing that we have that innate desire for that connection and for building positivity, right? Because if you're that person and you see that group of people, having a great time in a positive way, you want to join them. That's thereby expanding it. And say someone
Mm.
else who is like knows you, sees you joining it, they want to join that. And
Mm-hmm.
that's just it's lovely. It's lovely to know that that's what's out there in the world. That you know, sometimes it really does all work out. And
The
turns
energy
out,
builds on each other,
yeah.
you know? Yeah. And then have you ever been just like in a crappy mood and then, you get to talk to someone who is warm and positive and kind and, has all these things that they're maybe, I don't know, like just hearing somebody tell me about how they're grateful for things. If I'm not able to do it, even that is impactful somehow.
Oh,
It's
it's so
really
impactful.
interesting. It's just so interesting to me that like, people always tell you like, oh, practice gratitude when you're feeling low. And it's really hard. I mean, I tell myself that every time I'm there. And then just seeing somebody else, like there's something about how connected we already are. We're such social beings, like
Yeah.
seeing a child just like, living their best life, like just so grateful to be outside running around or splashing around in a splash pad or something like that's like, wow, like life is good. Life is so good. I've been saying life is good even when it's not. Just to remind
Yeah.
myself that it's like, I might feel like shit today, or I might be exhausted as hell, but at least I'm feeling something. Like I am
Yep.
alive. That's amazing. Even when I'm feeling pain, I'm like, that sucks. And I'm alive and I'm having an experience. Like it's kind of cool. So I know it's not as easy as that when you're going through hard things. But we can do hard things. And that's the other thing I
We
always
can.
like to tell myself is like, we go through hard things and you get out on the other side and then you feel like, okay, I did that.
And then
and
the
you
next
actually
hard
feel great.
and then the next hard thing isn't as hard because of that
Yeah,
experience. For
absolutely.
instance, today I had
Absolutely.
a rather chaotic day in my work office,
Hmm.
and then now you and I are talking, and like I have literally felt my jaw unclench, right? Like
Mm,
it's so
yeah.
important to like have those people and have those moments where it is about positivity and people building each other up.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
work in
Yeah.
politics, so it's, a lot of not that, a lot.
I think you need an uplift every day. I don't know how you're doing it. I literally went into nonprofit because I'm like, I need it. I need to just like have a reward system constantly where I feel like I'm helping people all the time. But, you
It's my
know.
rebellious nature, right? Like I had to be defiant and be the good person in the middle of it, being positive about people because I couldn't take it.
Oh, well, thank God for you with being there. I mean, you gotta just answer your calling sometimes. And that's
You
that's another
do.
thing I love about us is like not us, you and me, us as a people. I love that like we are all born just different with all of
Hmm.
these like just amazing little superpowers that the other ones don't have. Like that is just a beautiful like little tapestry to me. Like the just the
Isn't
human
it?
race, the human experience. It's just like so cool to be like, I suck at this. Like we were just talking about like not knowing things. Another
Yeah.
thing is like feeling like you have to be good at everything, right? And I'm
Ugh.
firstborn, you know,
Oh yeah.
overachiever, they call me type of person.
Same.
But you know, I I'm letting go of that identity a little bit. I'm like, you know, I don't have to know everything. You know what I love more now is like finding people that are better at me, better than me
Mhm.
at certain things. That's my favorite
Oh
thing
yeah.
now. I'm like, I'm super good at this, and I suck at that. And like admitting that I suck at something is the first step to me finding somebody who is brilliant at that thing and then bringing them in and then being able to have all this amazing human connection with them and having all of this like cool, like creative space with them where they're thriving at their height, I'm thriving at mine, we're feeding off of each other, you know, it's the best. And so we couldn't get there though if I was pretending like I knew everything and
Absolutely.
that
It's
I could be everything, you know?
like that Socrates quote where he said, "I know nothing." And I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it's Socrates. Obviously, he didn't know nothing, but he understood how vast and great knowledge what is. And
Yes.
yeah, getting to that
Yes.
space, it's liberating. It
Yeah.
makes you a better human, in my opinion,
Mm-hmm.
because you're able to appreciate the goodness and grace and abilities of other humans, and that's so important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it gives us it gives other people too. Like I mean, this if you need this too, like it gives other people the opportunity and the exposure to modeling for them to see like, oh, I can do that too. I don't have to be wearing this mask all day. I don't have
Yeah.
to pretend to be something that I'm not. I can relax. I can let my shoulders fall and I can like show a little like, you know, a little imperfection and it's going to be okay. I'm not going to be, you know, ostracized or something crazy like um it's wild, but I mean those are the little like we're so in tune with each other. That's another thing I
Yeah.
feel like we don't even give each other enough credit for, but like we're actually incredibly for the most part overall as a, you know, human society, like we are really good at reading each other. And that's why we, you know, can be so, well, they call it, you know, I've been called sensitive all my life and now I used to think of it as like a big insult, you know. I used to think about people when they call me sensitive, oh, you're just too sensitive. I used to think,
Yeah,
wow,
it's a
like you
superpower.
think it really is. I'm like, you think I'm weak, you think I'm pathetic, you know, like I hated being sensitive. I didn't want to cry, even though I, you know, was a crier. I would cry all the time. But like it was embarrassing and shameful, right? And now I'm like, oh yeah, I am super sensitive. I can sense
Yeah.
what's happening over here. I can, you know, tell that this person is feeling uncomfortable. I can tell this person doesn't feel safe. I can tell this person is in their elements. I can tell that like this is the thing that excites them. You know, like I know now that it's a gift, you know,
Totally.
and that's the difference in like embracing, you know, your quote unquote flaws because they're usually not flaws. They're just literally things that people want you to change for their benefit. So don't do it. Do more of
You know,
you. Do more you.
exactly. You know, as a you who is also a oldest sibling, oldest
Mm-hmm.
daughter,
Mm-hmm.
overachiever,
Mm-hmm.
finally has worked on shedding Anita perfectionism. I found this tip, and I think I've shared it with you, and we may have talked about it here, to like help my overachieving type A personality like chill out. And this is my tip that really helped me. We entertain and or we have house guests a lot. And whenever I would prepare for them, I felt like everything had to be perfect. But then I started
Mm-hmm.
making sure one thing was imperfect, whether it was a pile of laundry in the laundry room or
Mm-hmm.
something was askew somewhere. I just let it be. Our mail was stacked up because you know what? That's life. One, it's not
Mm-hmm.
perfect, but it's perfect because it is imperfect, in my
Mm.
opinion.
Absolutely. I love that. And yeah, My partner would
And
always
it
say,
really
like,
helped
I
me.
like our house. It looks lived in, you know, like
Yeah.
looks like people actually live here, and that's a good thing.
Yes. And I mean, being a person who grew up in a house that looked like a museum, yes. I love a house that
Hmm.
looks lived in.
Yeah,
It's comfortable.
I was gonna say exactly that word. Like, if you're not comfortable, how are your guests supposed to feel? I'm sure they're not comfortable either, you know.
And
Uh-huh.
makes you feel safe, I think, when it feels
Yes.
comfortable. And that's
Yeah,
so important.
absolutely. Yeah, for sure. And I mean that's really like the best way to host, right? Is to be thinking about your guests and their comfort. And so I love
Yeah.
that. And I almost feel like, like I don't know why recovering perfectionist came to my mind, but it's something that you have to get over
Yeah.
because clearly that means that there's a lot of social learning
Yes.
and intentional socialization or just socialization that's happening that tells us that we have to be perfect and that we have to impress and we have to go above and beyond and we have to be special and whatever that messaging is. You don't have to do anything, first of all. Do whatever you want. And second of all, I think, just like everything else, if we don't just look at it, it's like looking at the boogeyman. If you don't look at it and see it for what it is, then you'll never know how to get over it. You'll never be able to be like, that's just some piles of clothes under the bed, it's no boogeyman.
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
But I think at least for me, and I hope for others, it's more than that, right? It's like also our personalities and our cultural identities that we can embrace more when we let go of that societal acceptance and let go of the idea of perfection. Like one night, I was having a conversation
Mm-hmm.
with my spouse, and I could feel like the obviously tension I keep in my jaw had relaxed, and my childhood, where I forced myself not to have an accent, had
Mm-hmm.
eliminated. And next thing I know, I'm like, ah, why is he looking at me like this? Am I speaking English? Have I switched to another language? Do I not realize I've switched to another language? That's entirely possible. And then he's like, your accent's back. And I'm like, I think I'm really relaxed. I'm like,
Wow.
wow, this is new.
That's amazing. And yeah, like, well, and how you got there. Now I'm all like, let's experiment. How did you get there? Like, we all need to get
I
to
know.
this.
I'm like, I want to go back to that place.
Yeah. I wish for all of us that we find that path. We talk a lot
Mhm.
about self-care and how we have our issues with, the term and how it's been co-opted and, how it's important at the same time. But for some reason, when you said that, it made me think about like, I just wish for all of us that we prioritize finding that like happy place, that true
Yeah.
place of comfort. Oh, that sounds amazing. And it's like you can't force it. Like one of the things that always sticks out to me is like the idea of a spa day, which we've talked about. And it's like,
Yeah.
there's so many reasons not to think of a spa day, but just like the idea of it, like the
Yeah.
concept of it is like this weird cultural thing here specifically where it's like spa day, like the spa day is going to like cure everything, right? Like, and it's kind
Yeah.
of it's kind of the same concept as like the vacation, right? Like
Hmm.
I think it's just like I don't know if it's just an American thing, but definitely here people want to like put all of their like kind of like hopes and dreams of like, getting to like this relaxed state or this state where they reset their nervous system or whatever. And it's all going to be done with just like this one little thing, like this one day spa day, this one week
Yeah.
of vacation. This one thing is just going to be like the fix all and it's going to just come in and just like make everything better.
A lot of
And
pressure on a day, spa day.
a lot of pressure, first of all, right? Like that technician better have her stuff on point that day. Okay. Everything's riding on this. My entire sanity, my my marriage, my child, like everything is riding on this. Get your stuff together.
Oh my God, that's great.
And it's just like, first of all, that's not fair to the technician. And it's not fair to you as a human being that you would put all this pressure on yourself to like, magically like take away all of the stress and the tension and for it to just be like this thing that you can only do one time a year or whatever, how often you're lucky enough to do it.
Yeah.
um it's just so sad that that is like our culture. Like, I'm just realizing, saying it out loud, like that is culture, that is our culture. We have this shared cultural thing that we see like in movies and TV, which I think is such a wild, like, it's just like we talked about earlier with technology. It's a wild, interesting thing that like we are having this shared culture through this, this technology of like somebody in California being video recorded and all of a sudden it's something that lives in our brain. That's
Yeah.
really wild, and it's a shared lived experience and a shared cultural thing now between so many people. And the idea itself is, I would argue that it can be very harmful for people to think that that's all that they deserve, or that that's the way that you get, what you need in terms of getting to that place that you just described. I think that's so beautiful. And so often, I was going to say, when people come back from those things, I just keep hearing more and more that it did not solve all their problems. And
Really? That didn't work?
surprise, surprise, it did not work, even for the short term. I think there was a time where, like, maybe it did, help, at least for the short term, where it's like you would have kind of like a honeymoon phase when you got back from vacation, where it's like, all right, like for a good week or two, maybe, like you're feeling good, you're feeling re energized, you're feeling rested. I feel like that used to maybe be a thing. Either that, or like I'm literally just like, projecting from TV and movies that that was a thing. But because I don't know anybody that was taking vacations, honestly, in childhood. All of my blue collar like folks were not getting no vacations, to be honest.
Yeah.
So I don't know where that's coming from. It's probably fake things coming from Hollywood in my mind. But at the end of the day, all I know is that the reality now, from everyone that I know in my experience and myself, I come back from vacation, I'm like, I need another vacation.
Yep.
Just
I
like
need a vacation
that
from
one
my vacation.
that one
Hmm.
didn't work. I'm gonna need my money back. I'm gonna need another week. Like, I'm gonna need to do so. Like, I find myself more and more like just being like, ooh, being home and doing nothing, or like just like, trying my
Yeah.
best to like be invisible so I don't have to talk to anybody for a while, like be less stimulated. Like, I have, I have no idea how you got to that lovely space you just talked about, but it made me think, what if we all just made time
Hmm.
and space to experiment with getting to that place for us? Because it could mean anything, right? Like, however you got there, I'm sure it worked for you that time. It might not even work for you again, who knows? But of course it's going to work for some people, it won't work for others. It would be just lovely to maybe put some time aside intentionally to try to get closer to finding that place for each of ourselves.
I have noticed, and I think this may have helped me get to that place, is I have intentionally chosen to slow down, right? Like it is
Mm,
baking bread and it is gardening and it is reading as
mhm.
like luxury spare time objects. And also acknowledging that spare time isn't spare time, but it's the good time, right? Like, why are we prioritizing work as the, ideal time? It should be our life fulfilling stuff that is our focus. And I guess
Mm.
clearly some people are work focused, but it seems as a society we would all be better off if people put more focus into just them building up themselves. And I get there are a
Yeah.
lot of societal issues that need to be corrected to get to that point. Like, you know, in my world, in my blissful utopia that I have created, there's like universal health care, and there is
Mhm.
access to fresh fruits and vegetables and meats for everybody at
Mm.
affordable prices. And people can do whatever job they want to do and feel comfortable doing. And we all have
Yeah.
reliable energy and we have reliable housing.
Mm.
But this is the Tessa utopia that I have created. I'm not going to call it Tessa utopia, but this is utopia, right? Where we have solved the societal issues and just allowed people to be. And maybe that's why the Scandinavian countries are always the happiest because their governments do solve all those things for them.
There might be something there.
Okay, maybe in
Might be
reality
something
this is
to this.
maybe this is my Swedishness showing.
Hmm. I love it. I love when it does. There's nothing wrong with that. Let it show. Wave the flag. I love it.
Oh,
I mean, I wish that for us. I really, really, really wish that for us too. And
yeah,
to your point, like we don't have that on the societal scale. And just like so
yeah,
many other things, it feels like we're left, just to fend for ourselves as individuals, which is not fair and it's not ideal. I'd much rather be in Tessa's utopia, but I think because that's not our reality and this reality is, that's where we get led to is first we have to do our own work, or
mhm,
we have to. I don't even like calling it work, to be honest. I love thinking about it as like we get to do our own healing, we get to have our
yeah,
own journey, we get to invite
yeah,
people in on it, we get to inspire others, we get to be inspired by each other, we get to do wisdom sharing. It's just this world is set up, the society is set up in a way that is not conducive for all of the things that are best for us, even in sharing and caring and healing to get like all of that is also not a thing that someone has set up for us, sadly, not a thing that is just something we can pick up and be a part of. But I do think that we have power. We have power to create that space. We have power to create, those opportunities with one another. And that's, you talked about Tessa's utopia, and if I could wave a magic wand, I would have all the big things for everybody. I
oh
love the idea of
yeah,
giving it for everybody. And I feel like the next best thing is to like do as much of that as you can with whatever
absolutely,
part of the world you can reach. Like, maybe you can't do it for the whole country, but maybe you can do it for you and your sister.
yeah,
Or maybe you can do it for, I don't know, your neighbors in your area. It's just like on your block or something like that. Maybe you can do it with, I don't know, the people that you like to, I don't know, play a sport with or something like that. Maybe you also meet up and, talk about mental health or like start a text group even to just check in on each other or talk about. I mean, there's so many different things that I find, going back to technology, like wonderful that you can connect. It's like I know about a group of women. I'm in sexual health, and somebody told me about a group of women of color who don't have a lot of access to sexual health care or healthcare in general, but they noticed that you know the women started just talking to each other, at least, and how powerful that was for them to just be in a place where they could ask questions. I mean, just something as simple as being like, what was your experience with this thing, and like, how did it go for you? Like, that's such a big deal. It's such a big deal to not be alone and isolated in a way where you're just going through things alone, even if it's with people who are not, your family or people that you talk to every day, but just knowing that you're talking to real people who are having real experiences just like you, and making an effort to connect and organize people, it can make a big difference for sure.
oh, that sounds lovely. And I think you're absolutely right. We all do our part. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that starts with kind of like an adventure of ourselves, right? Let's explore ourselves. Let's see the type of world we want to live in. What does your utopia look like? And maybe that's part of it, right? Like, how do you build your own utopia? And we all have utopias that just kind of align with each other. And I
Mm-hmm.
think it would be lovely. I think we'd all be sharing a bunch of like positive, happy energy that helps everybody be better, do more. I don't want to say it's bad. I want people to feel their best.
Yeah, yeah. And just get closer to whatever brings them joy, and maybe purpose is something that brings them joy, like
Yeah.
I just feel like there's so much of this that is really about connection. So when we talk about technology, that's kind of the thing that comes up for me the most, because having a computer I don't know about you, but like there's not much for me to do without connectivity to other people. Like it would
Correct.
I would be like, okay, like this is a calculator maybe for me. I'm not a scientist or a mathematician. I have no other use for this thing, like I truly like wouldn't have much to do on it except for the work that I do to connect with people, to collaborate with people, to share ideas with people, to learn from people. It's very people based actually. And maybe that's one of the things that we can really like take away from this conversation is that technology is not something, separate and apart from us. It's an extension of us, right? And
Absolutely.
it's all about, what we do with it, but it's also just so much opportunity for more of that good connection and more pursuit of joy and more pursuit of purpose and more pursuit of healing and more pursuit of organizing, and getting closer to whatever shared goals that we have, whatever we want our future to be. It's about using these tools to create the future we want.
Yes. Yes. And at this point, it still feels like an act of rebellion. So I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to put out my call, as always, to all of us rebel, use technology as Cy described, and it is going to be fantastic.
Absolutely. Well, this is such a wonderful, beautiful conversation as always, Tessa. Thank you so much for always being here and keeping me uplifted. I love you so much. And I love all of you too.
I love you so much. I'm so glad that people can find good in themselves and each other because it's going to be great.
All right. Well, till next time, stay uplifted, y'all. Take care.